While it's great that Tony Khan has kept ROH alive, under his tenure, ROH has basically been a company that no one has any reason to pay attention to beyond 3 pay-per-views a year. Despite having a bunch of cold matches featuring guys that haven't actually wrestled in ROH much, if at all, these pay-per-views have tended to be better than AEW's pay-per-views because they feature Mark Briscoe, some notable lucha libre matches involving El Hijo del Vikingo and the Beast Mortos, and fewer of the bums Tony insists on endlessly shoving down our throats, sometimes even sparing us stiffs that actually hold the ROH tag titles. Death Before Dishonor 2024 on July 26, 2024 at the Esports Stadium Arlington was a big upgrade over the one miss of Tony's ROH, Supercard of Honor 2024. Re-establishing ROH's pay-per-views is something to look forward to, largely due to the very good main event where Mark Briscoe defended the ROH World Title against Roderick Strong. ROH was once the primary alternative to mainstream American wrestling, but in 2024, outside of the one more presumably worthwhile pay-per-view we'll get in December, it's largely just a place where Khan books some practice matches nobody attends or watches, for wrestlers he isn't doing anything else with. It's arguably more useful to keep people active, rather than just pay them to sit around and do nothing for 2 years like Scorpio Sky, who has wrestled just 6 matches since dropping the TNT title to Wardlow on July 6, 2022, despite being healthy the majority of the time, and a much better wrestler than almost anyone who has held the title since. However, there is more than enough talent under contract to AEW that it wouldn't take much effort to give the promotion an identity, and make their weekly shows still be a somewhat useful alternative to what Tony's already doing in AEW. There was obviously a ton of sympathy for Mark Briscoe after the tragic death of his older brother Jay, who was taken on January 17, 2023, when a reckless driver going in the opposite direction wound up in his lane. The head-on crash also leaving Jay's 2 daughters, who he was driving to cheerleader practice, in critical condition. Mark may have been the lesser of the wrestling brothers, but that says more about how talented Jay was. Mark's redneck chicken farmer gimmick harkens back to legendary crazies such as Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. He's a much better athlete than both of them, a strong worker and a good promo, who is charismatic and unique enough as a wild man that he could be a mainstream draw while maintaining his status as a cult favorite. Tony Khan needed to decide in early 2023 if he was either going to give Mark a new tag team partner or a real singles push. Not that I want to see anyone against MJF, but Mark should have challenged for the AEW World Title at Double or Nothing 2023. The annoying rich city boy versus the sympathetic hillbilly should have been easy enough for even Tony to sell. And then Mark should have either won the tag titles with his new partner, or captured one of AEW's countless mid-card titles to build himself back up. Certainly he would have done a lot more with a TNT title than the likes of Wardlow, Nasty Boy Hobbs, and the dinosaur who can't do lucha, or any other style. Instead, Tony really did nothing with Mark all year, beyond jobbing him to Samoa Joe at Supercard of Honor 2023, and having him go 1-4 in the Continental Breakfast League. Mark has finally received a little push in 2024, winning the ROH World Title out of nowhere from Eddie Kingston on Supercard of Honor 2024, and representing AEW in the latest phony blood and guts nonsense on July 24th, where he was the only good thing in the endless collection of repetitive contrived goofiness that Kazuchika Okada did us a favor by doing his best to hide his way through, so we could survive this nonsense almost unscathed. The ROH World Title was obviously good when ROH itself actually meant something, but now that ROH barely exists, it's arguably more of a limitation to where Mark could actually be in AEW than a help. Mark is still only 6-6 in singles in AEW since Jay passed, with wins over Josh Woods, Preston Vance, Jeff Jarrett, Brian Cage, and 2 wins over Jay Lethal, or in other words, no wins that were actually meaningful when they happened. As beloved as Mark has been for the last 2 decades on the indie scene, he still needs a better modern resume than this if one expects people to actually purchase pay-per-views he is headlining in 2024 and beyond. Even though Mark and Roderick haven't been booked strongly in AEW, they remain favorites of what's left of the ROH faithful. Both started with ROH when the promotion was in its infancy. Mark participated in the first Death Before Dishonor show on July 19, 2003, where the Briscoes failed to capture the tag titles from AJ Styles and Amazing Red in the semi-final. Strong became a full-time ROH wrestler in 2004, teaming with Austin Aries and Jack Evans to lose to Jimmy Jacobs, John Walters, and Matt Striker on the second Death Before Dishonor show on July 23, 2024, where the Briscoes again failed to capture the ROH tag titles, this time losing the main event to CM Punk in the days when he still got along with Colt Cabana. Briscoe vs. Strong was arguably the only real ROH feeling match on this year's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, with the two legends of the promotion still able to reach or even exceed the level they were at when ROH was really a thing, rather than AEW in sheep's clothing. Though Strong and Briscoe have only squared off in two recent tag matches since Strong jumped to WWE in 2016, being two of the most useful and important wrestlers to have come through ROH, these guys have a long and storied history together. This is the 51st time they squared off going back to May 22, 2024, and they are 3-3 in singles matches. Strong, who held the ROH World Title for half a year from 2010 through 2011, adopted the moniker Mr. ROH in 2013. This was Strong's first ROH match since he lost to Dalton Castle, the Peacock who is such an awful WWE-style comedy performer that he never even made it onto Peacock, on June 25, 2016. Prior to that, Strong lost to Mark on June 24th in a match that wasn't that highly regarded at the time, but honestly is pretty comparable in quality to this one that everybody loves. The 2024 match does a better job of allowing Mark to play the quote-unquote underdog, with the blood being a key factor in that. But aside from the juice and the higher profile with this being a main event title match, the 2016 match is arguably the better athletic contest and the more exciting of the two. In any case, Tony Khan's idea of creative booking was to have Strong avenge that 2016 loss to the flamboyant comedy wrestler in a #1 contenders match on the July 10, 2024 episode of AEW Collision, where Strong somehow managed to put Castle out for the rest of the year with his flying knee. Now Strong looked to avenge his previous ROH loss to Briscoe. This sort of history that no one remembered didn't make it any easier for these two to reach the heights of drama a Ring of Honor World Title match deserves. But it's not their fault that ROH barely exists, and these guys are busy toiling against other losers in AEW. To their credit, they did what real wrestlers do, create their own drama through wrestling rather than talking. In spite of everything, they were able to make this feel like an important and dramatic match. Strong is one of the most all-around solid workers in the business. He can work well with and carry an opponent of any style. While his general match layout doesn't actually vary that much, he will always cater to the opponent, feeding them for whatever they do well. Against Briscoe, there's less technical wrestling. Really, it only existed in the opening minute to appease Strong, while there was more brawling and out-of-the-ring action from both, and Mark did his athletic stuff. Strong is one of the only active wrestlers who consistently pushes the pace, rather than just doing bursts, which obviously were designed for babyface comebacks, not to be a style unto themselves, because few wrestlers these days know how to portray a technical struggle, so they just alternate between stalling and doing their flashy stuff. Strong's strategy is somewhat old-school MMA oriented, in the sense that he tries to win through his conditioning, rather than finding as many places to give both wrestlers a break as possible. This was a very hard-hitting contest, as most of Strong's matches are. He is one of the few guys who actually looks like he's trying to hurt the opponent with his chops. Briscoe is a bit jokey with his redneck kung fu, but the match had a good level of violence and physicality. There was a real contrast of styles, with the consummate professional Strong doing everything in a technically precise manner, and the unorthodox savage Briscoe being loud and demonstrative. Strong pushed his fast pace, and handled the meat and potatoes of the match, all the technical wrestling, the setups, etc., with Briscoe being the charismatic performer who got crowd support and made hot comebacks with big and athletic moves. Mark is a fantastic crowd-favorite underdog, able to pop the crowd with his exciting offense. Briscoe did a somersault over the barricade, as well as his signature Cactus Jack elbow off the apron. Strong, of course, worked the back, including the backbreaker on the ring apron. Briscoe did one of his massive blade jobs after Strong posted him. The blood was literally dripping onto the canvas for much of the second half of the match, and while this was obviously a match Mark was going to win, the blood loss theoretically created more doubt and made him overcoming the odds more satisfying. I thought the announcers should have connected Strong's strategy of winning through superior cardio with the blood loss depleting Mark more rapidly, but at least Ian Riccoboni and Caprice Coleman don't scream incessantly like Tony Schiavone, or disagree with everything to the point of having no credibility like Nigel McGuinness. Mark avoided the J-Driller down the stretch, but Strong was able to get it on the second try. Mark was so pissed at Strong disrespecting Jay's legacy by stealing his finisher that he kicked out at 1 and hulked up for the cartoon comeback. Strong came back with an Avalanche Olympic slam for a near fall. The biggest issues with the match were Mark's jokiness clashing with Strong's seriousness, particularly with the striking, and the predictable Undisputed Kingdom run-in was as uncalled for as it always is. Strong had two big near finishes, after Mike Bennett hit Mark with a title belt, and after his sick kick, but then Kyle O'Reilly and Tomohiro Ishii arrived to save the day. Strong had kept avoiding the froggy bow, but eventually Mark stopped a superplex and knocked him off the top rope to set up hitting it for the win. This match never dragged. It was quick hitting and action-packed, as you'd expect from Strong. This was comparable to Strong's 2024 pay-per-view matches where he had a real opponent. The match with Kyle O'Reilly from Dynasty was the best, despite being hurt by being the lowest profile, with neither being booked in a manner that captivated anyone. While this and the Will Ospreay match from Double or Nothing benefited from the higher profile, as well as Strong's opponent at least being over. I give this match 3.5 out of 5 stars.